Hi, this is Russell Stannard from teachertrainingvideos.com. What I'm going to quickly do in this video is take you through the basic principles that we think about when we're teaching online. I'm sure you're asking the question, why should I be listening to this guy? There are literally hundreds of videos on this topic on the internet. I did manage to win 3 pretty big educational awards for my work in educational technology. So I've got basically 20 years experience working at universities, running teacher training courses for primary and secondary school teachers, but also training the lecturers and professors at the universities in how to incorporate technology into their teaching and learning, either blended learning, fully online, or now, of course, hybrid. So lots of experience working with teachers, and hopefully this video might be useful to you. There are basically 2 components when we teach online. There's a platform where you normally put the homework that you want the students to do or the activities you want them to do before the live session. And those platforms are things like Edmodo, Schoology, Moodle, Blackboard, etc. And then you have a live session, and you normally use something like Zoom or Google Meet. There's loads of these tools around these days. Click Meeting, there's another one, Microsoft Teams, etc. Now, it's the relationship between those 2 parts that's interesting. It's how you can get students to be doing things on the platform in preparation for the live session. And that's why this crossover part really is the key to effective learning. You really want to be building activities that perhaps you've even started on the platform by getting the students to do an activity, maybe read something or watch a video, or even just study something in preparation for the live session. Now, let's think about those 2 parts and how they would best work together. Remember, a good teacher, a really effective teacher, will be trying to maximize that kind of intersection between the work that the students do on the platform and the live lesson. Now, one thing that I try to do is to try to build the activities on the platform that I want my students to do. Some of those activities I want them to do before the live session. Some of those activities I actually want them to do during the live session. So often in a live session, I will get the students to actually open up the platform and do something on the platform. And then there will be activities I want the students to do after the live session. So one of the hardest things that teachers find is how to build that relationship between the content that they put on the platform, the videos, the readings, the listening material, the blog posts, etc., and the activities that they do during a live session. Now, just to give you a couple of examples of what I mean. So, for example, I might say to the students, okay, before the lesson, I want you to read this article and I want you to discuss it in a forum post. So that's before the lesson. Now, during the lesson, I might actually ask my students to go into breakout rooms and to open up the forum and then to all read it in their breakout rooms and discuss the best points that were made, or the best 5 points. So now I'm actually using the content on the platform during the live session. And then I may do another activity afterwards, which is to perhaps get them to summarize or do perhaps a written piece related to the forum, etc. So what I'm trying to demonstrate, and I'm not saying this is easy, and I'm not saying that I can always do this myself, because I can't. All I'm trying to say is this is what I'm always thinking. How most effectively can I connect what the students do on the platform to what I'm going to do in the live session? So that's how I'm using the platform to try to connect it and to get the most out of the live session. Now let's have a quick think about the live session. So when I'm doing a live session, I'm kind of thinking 3 things. 1, how can I, for example, connect the live session to the platform? And I just sort of gave you an example. I'd sometimes do activities where I get the students to actually open up something that they've done on the platform. The other thing I do is I really make use of the tools that are available in the system that I'm using. So, for example, if I'm using Zoom, then it's the breakout rooms. I make really good use of the webcam. I turn the webcams on and off. So I have a moment when I want the students to turn the webcams off, but then it might come to a discussion time. I turn the webcams on. And then sometimes we're using the chat room as well. So I try to make sure that I'm continually varying the lesson by, for example, playing a video, then jumping to a PowerPoint, and then doing something on the platform, then putting them into breakout rooms, then doing a discussion. So I'm adding as much variety into the lesson as I possibly can into the live session. And then the other thing I would do is bring in other tools to help me do that. And that's what you see a lot on my teacher training videos website, is that I introduce and show teachers these other tools that they can use to make the sessions more engaging. And that's things like Padlet and things like Mentimeter and things like quizzes and Kahoot and Socrative. And I don't use loads of these tools. I have about 7 or 8, I guess, that over the years I've kind of really got familiar with: Google Forms, Google Docs, etc. But whenever I start the training with teachers, I'm normally saying to them, first of all, look, make the most of the technology that's available. If it's Zoom or if it's Google Meet, whatever you're using, learn to use it as well as you can, and learn to shift between one kind of way of using it and another. So play a video, then do a PowerPoint, then set up a discussion, then use the chat room, then jump to the platform that you're using, and add as much variety as you can. And then another way to add variety, as I've said, is to learn these other technologies like Padlet, like Google Forms, like Google Docs, like quizzes, like Mentimeter. They can really help to make your live sessions as interesting as possible. Now, whenever I do the training, there's almost 2 types of teachers that come out at the kind of spectrums. That is, one group of teachers tend to know masses of technologies, but they don't necessarily know them that well, and they don't think about how they really integrate into a lesson, and they throw loads of technologies at the students. But then if you think about how much learning's taking place, then you really sometimes have to question what they're doing. The other extreme is where teachers really worry because they say, well, I've got to learn all these technologies. And I want to make the point that really, first of all, I learnt to use, in my case, Zoom really well. And I also learnt about a couple of platforms because I was working sometimes with universities, and therefore I had to learn Moodle. But sometimes I was working in private industry, and so I learned to use Edmodo. But that's really where I started. I had a really strong understanding of those 2 basic tools. And that took me quite a long while to learn, but it was only 2 technologies. I'm not trying to say that teaching online is easy, because it's not. And yes, you've got to put an effort into it, but you don't have to learn loads of technologies. And then after that, I began to learn a few more. I learned things like Padlet and Google Forms and Google Docs and quizzes.com and Kahoot and Socrative. And I guess in the end, I ended up using I still use about 7 or 8 key technologies apart from the platform and the actual live technology that I use. So really what I'm saying to you is, at the beginning, learn to use a platform. It could be Google Classroom, it could be Edmodo, it could be Moodle, it could be Blackboard. Whatever platform your institution is using as the basis for organising your students' learning, learn that technology. The other thing is, learn the technology for the live session. So whether that's Google Meet or Microsoft Teams or Zoom, try to learn to use effectively that tool. That's a great starting point. And then start to look at some of the other tools, and that's when it's a great time to go to my website. I do have videos, for example, on using things like Zoom and Moodle as well, but I've got lots of videos that can show you how to add additional technologies to your lesson, and that would be my advice on how to deliver your teaching and learning online. Okay, I really hope that was useful. Please come over to teachertrainingvideos.com. Loads more videos. There's a section on Zoom, there's a section on Moodle, there's a section on Edmodo. And then there are some great things that we can use to make our live sessions more interesting, like Kahoot and WordWall. And then some of the ones I mentioned today, Mentimeter, Padlet. So please take a look. All the videos are free. If you want to sign up to the newsletter and keep up with all my work, then you can do that. And you can also subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want to follow all the new videos that I put up onto YouTube. And finally, if you do want to contact me about doing any training with you or with your school or your organisation, then you can contact me from the website. And thank you very much.